So as soon as you guys can hear me, give us the keyword shillelagh.
Well, it says you're live. It could be a YouTube lie, though.
Or optionally, you could just let us know onomatopoeia. That's also a word.
That nobody knows how to spell. I have to look it up every time.
I wonder, it's probably the captions probably get all that right now. Like the captions no doubt spell shillelagh perfectly correctly.
Oh, there they go. They say shillelagh. Okay, good.
Well, welcome to a live Links with Friends.
Hello. Today is December 2nd, which seems insane. Is today the 2nd?
Yeah, it's already December.
Okay, yeah.
Let's just crank up the existential crisis to 11 because it was like July. I don't know, 12 minutes ago.
Ugh. I'm so tired, chat.
And there's so much news. I'm sorry. I've said the word.
You said it multiple times. It's fine.
Links with Friends.
Links with friends. We don't do that here.
The auto caption engine really doesn't like us plebs talking about things without having someone tell us what our opinion is first.
I watched a movie on YouTube with some friends over the course of the holiday week. And every time there was a character called TikTok. It was Return to Oz, a very weird movie. There's a character called TikTok in it, but it always spelled it like the app TikTok. Even though the movie was from the 60s. So I was like,
oh, yeah, I've seen that movie.
It's
yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
It's like Wizard of Oz fever dream, although
Yeah.
it's maybe more faithful to the books or something. I don't know. Chia gives $5. If you've never done a live stream with us, the way we do this is we do this in 3 sections. So there's 3 acts, a play in 3 acts. And if you give us money, we will read your name at the end of the act. So fun times.
But Ryan, tell them the tragedy of the acts this time. You were telling us right before we started. All the sections, yeah.
It's a balancing act to try to get equal portions, but divide them into 2 categories each. And usually there's like Fat Wednesday, something like that. This time it was almost exact. It was 25, 25, 27, but it doesn't matter today.
Because it's all live stream.
Because we're not breaking it up.
Yeah.
But it'll be great for pausing for the donations.
And Genevieve Day also gave us $5.
Thank you.
Which apparently was before Chia, but the YouTube interface messed up and was like, no, I just came through. I don't know. But we'll blame that one on payment processing. So we'll get started with our first story, and then we'll do the rest afterwards.
So this is an interesting story because this is a story that we've been talking about for most of the year. Find and replace the name from the subject line. That seems to be the only thing that's changed here.
The FTC has opened a wide-ranging antitrust probe into Microsoft. By the way, was the audio okay on scene change? Sometimes we have a problem with that.
You know what's the scene change buttons are reversed in this profile.
Oops.
Oh,
So I'm
good
gonna
UX.
be pressing the wrong one every time. So yeah, Microsoft. Microsoft is now getting all the same complaints that Google has gotten, and Amazon and Facebook. But weird timing, right? Because these agencies are not expected to have the same personnel in about 50 days. So will this continue? They point out that in the past, sometimes there have been things like this which survived
Administration.
regime changes, but who knows about this one? Certainly the litany of charges, in my opinion, I would say, Microsoft's guilty of that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, they mentioned, the Activision acquisition and stuff. And I'm like, everyone knew that was bad as well. And yet nothing was done. So,
I think OpenAI is the big one, though.
yeah, that is a big one.
It's the one you got to worry about. And that's bad news for Microsoft, but they did not get the lion's share of the bad news this past. Actually, the real bad news came yesterday, but one company for sure is number 1 on the leaderboard. Bad news, December 2024.
In Gadget's headline is the Intel CHIPS Act funding has been cut by over $600 million. Now, they're still getting billions of dollars. They're just getting $600 million less. $500 million, a little over $500 million. And Pat Gelsinger's out, but we're going to cover that in the business section. So that'll be in Act 2. This is government money. But he got them to sign off, and he's going to get the money before the incoming U.S. presidential administration thingy. So that's good for Intel, I guess.
But they're
CHIPS money.
They're also getting another government contract, and that's why
Military.
this was cut. Yeah. So it's not
Yeah.
like they're not getting as much money, but they're still getting a lot of money.
They're still getting a lot of money, like a lot. But they also cut a lot of jobs. I think that's, it's like, why is this happening? It wasn't said, but Dr. Tech Potato, I'm sure, has a really good insight into why it was cut $600 million.
Stock buybacks, layoffs,
Yeah, government
failure to change anything.
kind of frown. It's like, what are you doing to the workforce? We got lots of people that are willing to work and innovate. What are you doing?
And the other big decision that has kind of already been made, but not really, is about Google and Chrome. We don't know for sure that Chrome has to go. I mean, they're threatening it, but does it really have to go? If it does have to go, what's it worth? And considering that it's really just the foot in the door, does it have value for anybody else?
Google's Chrome worth up to $20 billion if judge orders sale. This is according to MSN. I think this is ludicrous. Chrome is worth way more than $20 billion. Like Saudi Arabia, like look at the NSO group. Anybody over there would buy it for $20 billion because it would open up so much possibility. So much possibility.
Yeah, possibility to do the same thing that they just got burned for.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get away with that?
Yeah, but not in a U.S. market. Like just,
Maybe for a little
you
while,
wanna
and
do
then
it
you just
somewhere
sell it, and then it's someone else's problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But once it becomes branded Saudi Arabia Chrome,
Do you think
a lot of
anybody-
people are going
yeah.
to bail out. It's going to be easy for the competitors to point that out, and people might switch. I don't know. People might not switch because
People don't seem to care about their browser
Yeah.
choice that much, unless you're, us. But
when Edge does the thing where it just copies the other ones and people don't notice, like that's amazing to me.
yeah,
I had someone encounter that in the wild. They didn't know why. They're kind of a power user, but they're not a computer user, and they didn't know why they'd added some extensions to Chrome, and they didn't know why their extensions stopped working. And it was because Edge had murdered Chrome and replaced Chrome with itself. And they were like, I was like, this isn't Chrome, this is Edge. And they were like, what are you talking about?
like the mask when we played that, like
That's
horrible.
what's the bird that does that?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, where they like take the nest for themselves.
They lay their eggs
Yeah.
in the other nest. That's what they should change their logo to whatever that is. Somebody in the chat knows what that is. And China certainly has an uncertain future, although Trump was the ultimate anti-China president, right? But then now he's completely flip-flopped on TikTok. Is he going to change his mind about any other China stuff?
Tom's Hardware article says the U.S. is reportedly going to sanction 200 more Chinese chip firms. High bandwidth memory might also see export bans. That's probably good news for Samsung
Why?
because they have lots of HBM memory as well.
No, I think the ban here is Samsung selling it to China.
Oh, well, that's Korea. That's going to be, does the U.S. like, oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be fine if we're willing to buy it all. I don't know if we're economically in a position to be able to do that.
And unfortunately, we have come to the point where the copyright cartel has pushed it as far as they can. There's finally going to be an OK corral for copyright showdown. Maybe. They're asking for your opinion. Please give it to them.
The Ars Technica headline is the Supreme Court wants the U.S. input on whether ISPs should be liable for users' piracy. I don't think they've asked for our opinion. The answer is obviously no. But lawmakers can be easily confused and swayed on this issue. And I really do not look forward to corporations policing on behalf of copyright owners.
They point out in this article that like it's really easy to get a false positive. If one person downloads something they're not supposed to, everyone in the house could be punished. Like there's a lot of reasons that this shouldn't happen. But
And as we've seen, there is no punishment or any drawback at all to false positive DMCA.
yeah,
Like, you just do it forever. You can do it en masse. You can have a robot do it. You'll never get in trouble for that.
You can even do it in bad faith deliberately, and you won't get in trouble for it.
Sometimes they get in a tiny bit of trouble, but it's usually a different kind of charge.
yeah.
So it's like, oh, we're going to give you, fine you $1,000. Meanwhile, Jamie Thomas, millions of dollars of verdict for piracy.
That was a story I had Dark Krista thoughts about, but I kept it together. 'Cause
You got to let those out.
it's the holiday season. We're gonna be happy. We're gonna be cheerful.
You don't want those inside.
No,
better
I'll
out
keep
than
them
in.
contained.
We'll probably do another live stream like post Christmas, but like Christmas week, I can already tell you, is just going to be pure and utter chaos. So I don't know that there's a thing, but we'll see.
What thing are you talking about?
Like live news after the Christmas holiday.
No.
Yeah.
So like we don't know. Like it's probably not going to be drunk news, but maybe we can do cheese plate.
Cheese plate news. You can eat cheese?
Yeah,
Could you eat a whole cheese plate?
No.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad.
No, it'd be bad. I went pretty hard on the tofurkey. It was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's not meat, so that's okay.
Well, they tend to use a lot of oils that are not the good kind of oils.
Well, maybe you also ate some of those things on your holiday, and maybe you traveled. Maybe you went on a plane. And if you did, guess what? You went into another database. But you didn't have to. But maybe you did have to.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things where it's like they say you don't have to.
You totally
but
do. Senators say TSA's facial recognition program is out of control. Here's how to opt out. This doesn't actually work. I've been doing a lot of traveling, and when they're like, hey, you should look here. And it's like, can I not do this? And they're like, no. Like 5 or 6 times out of the last 20 times that I've been traveling, I was like, I would like to opt out of this. And there is a lot of friction when I do that.
probably at that level of employee, it's not anything nefarious. It's just, I don't want to be bothered with this.
Yeah.
Let's keep the line moving. Let's make my day easy. But I think that's used, kind of weaponized by the powers that be. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the nonsense section. But yeah, a couple of senators have gotten together and they've written some letters and they said, hey,
Cross-platform.
yeah, we're a little bit concerned. Oh, there's no way for us to really do this one easily, right? I guess, here we go. We can look at that. We're concerned that you might be telling us that we can opt out when in fact we cannot. When you hide the signs, and then as we send people through the test and they ask you about it, you lie to them and say, you have to do it.
Yeah, they do. I can tell you that they do. In fact, they've been pretty consistent about being like, you should not, it's like, no, I really can't opt out. And they're like, well, okay, I guess, whatever.
They mentioned too that, like, I can't remember what the percentage was, but they were like, taking it up to every airport, it would be 64,000 people per day getting a false ID in the system.
That was false positives. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
If it was every airport as they're wanting to roll it out to.
yeah, doesn't work. And then there's the old arguments that certain kinds of people it's more likely to not work for.
Right.
Which
100% of the time they've asked me, and of the times that I've said I would like, I'm opting out, only a very small number were they like, well, I guess, whatever. The rest of the time they're like, you can't opt out.
you gotta become a problem. And
Am
then,
I being detained?
and then you do get detained.
Yeah.
And they steal all of your stuff that you have.
All your cool tech gear that you're traveling with.
And maybe if you're very unlucky, this tends to happen because people, they're like traveling and there's more risk. You might have gone to a hospital over the holiday season. That was probably a little bit worse than going to an airport. And what's worse than that, the information, all those forms that they made you fill out 6 different times. Well, they're not very good at protecting that information. And it's very, very, it's a lot of personal stuff that they have about you.
U.S. senators propose a law to require bare minimum security standards. I love the subheadline, in case anyone forgot about Change Healthcare. It turns out under U.S. law and a lot of state law, there is already bare minimum security standards. Kentucky, believe it or not, we actually have some reasonably okay laws about protecting patient data because we've got a lot of like small clinics, and we allow
Middle of nowhere clinic.
yeah, we still allow a doctor to own their own practice independently, and they're pretty well shielded under the law from malpractice and all sorts of we could have some really reject doctors operating their own clinic. Not that we do, but
Oh, we definitely do.
I mean, we do, but also that's not.
yeah, personal experiences and family, but there are specific requirements they have to protect their data, even though they're like a sole practitioner and that kind of stuff. And they don't want to do that. And even notifications under the law and just bare minimum security, it was bad here that it was just wide open for anybody and continues to be pretty bad. So those laws already exist. There's just, and the penalties are pretty stiff too. They won't do anything.
So 2-factor authentication and encryption are the only 2 things that they're asking for there.
Which seems like a really low bar. Like the bar is in hell.
When they say bare minimum, they're not kidding. It's really simple stuff to do. And if you are going to do any camping this winter,
Maybe hiking. I don't know if I want to camp in the winter.
I went ice fishing exactly one time.
well,
And decided never again.
Yes.
Did you ever get caught out there on the ice? Because this might save you if you were to get caught in your imaginary camping/ice fishing trip.
U.S. agency approves T-Mobile and SpaceX license to extend coverage to dead zones. You can use satellite phones. It's amazing. The incumbent cell phone companies, AT&T mostly, was venting their spleen trying to stop this.
It's better than nothing, I guess.
And Gensler. Gensler's his name, right? Gary Gensler.
I just
the
retired
SEC chair.
dramatically.
No. He did not retire. He's retiring on January 19th.
That's right.
At 11:45 a.m., he made a point of noting the specific time that he's retiring.
So he's out, and with him goes a lot of the antagonism and the hatred for crypto. It seems like the new regime will be very crypto friendly. Don't know if that's going to be good or bad for us, but it's good for these guys.
Tornado cash sanctions overturned by U.S. appeals court. Torn soars 500%. This is the guy who ate the banana on a stage, isn't it?
Is it?
I think so.
I'll admit the name does not inspire confidence, but I did not recognize it immediately.
It was a mixer, right? Tornado, because it mixed coins and broke the tracking, although I wouldn't trust that.
Yeah.
It's they can still get to it, I think.
It did not, but the court here said that people have a legitimate want to use this for anonymous transactions, which is wild because the federal government has said, no, you have no right to anonymity, even if you use cash. And I'm pretty sure that was one of the reasons for cash.
And this was a bad sort, huh? Because I had a hospital story here that could have come right after the other hospital thing. And this is a great illustration on why we need those bare minimums.
The Register has the headline, "The National Health Service Major Cyber Incident Forces Hospitals to Use Pen and Paper." Oh, we've got that story in the nonsense section about the old lady. I wonder if it was because of this that the ambulance took so long.
No, I think that's just socialized healthcare.
I mean, it's not like it's much better here.
It's dark. It's really dark.
So yeah, they have not announced exactly what this is, but it feels like ransomware based on everything else. And because this is so common these days, unfortunately, they have put some backup plans in place. So you get to fill out an extra set of those forms
But then they lose, or they're like, I can't read your handwriting here. What did this say?
to be digitized.
Are you
later.
allergic to penicillin?
What's crazy is we have the public key cryptographic infrastructure in order to be able to like ping you whenever somebody wants to unlock your health records. It's like, I need to unlock your health records. Can you authorize that? And it's like, boom, here's your session key. This key's only good for 24 hours.
Wait a minute. Why would Coca-Cola need that? And that I did because the sort is like that because we've moved to Europe. I just noticed that. Yeah, that's UK. And then we also have Google, which is getting shockingly the same exact complaints that they get everywhere else. And now that they've lost their cases in the US, I think they're going to lose all of these as well.
The Reuters headline is Google's going to tweak its search results in Europe after rivals complained. What did the rivals complain of? That Google products seem to rank ahead of non-Google products. It's so weird. That's totally not intentional.
Is this the one about the hotels, or is that a different one?
Yeah, it's an argument. So Google wants to summarize.
Right.
The hotels want you to go to their website. But then like booking.com and TripAdvisor and all those want you to go to their website. Everybody's getting a slightly worse position because Google's always at the top.
Right.
So everybody's like, hey, but one way benefits the hotels. The other way benefits the third party people. So who do you choose, right? If you're the gatekeeper.
I feel like I would pick the hotels. I generally want to see, I don't travel a whole lot. So if I'm going somewhere, it's I'd rather see directly from the person making it.
We have a live challenge from Sausage Toes. How do we know this is really live? Sausage Toes, come on.
I guess that me
would
doing
prove
this
it.
doesn't.
Yeah, that's why I did
Reading
that.
his thing would prove it.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, but you should never feed the trolls, but
Never feed the toes.
Sausage toes.
And Canada doing the exact same thing. This one is in the bag. I mean, come on. It's literally the same thing. They just copy pasted and they're like, give us our money.
Canada's antitrust watchdog sues Google, alleging anti-competitive conduct in advertising. Now, I actually spent some time, Reuters didn't, to try to figure out what exactly Canada was complaining about. And this seems to be related to it's not ranked choice, but the ad bidding system. It's weird because even when there wasn't a lot of competition for keywords, it seems like the the bit amount was raised a fair bit.
It's Chrome data being used to figure out. It's like just what Amazon's doing.
Yeah.
They have the monopoly on user data that they can use to game the ad system. It's pretty simple. They're definitely doing it too. Another thing that they're doing up there in the Great White North, imagine that you're just cruising along and you smash into a giant moose.
Okay.
And it just shatters your spine.
Oh.
What are you going to do? Now you got options.
Elon Musk's Neuralink receives Canadian approval for brain chip trial. It's like this Canadian moose victim can live on in OpenAI.
I think they said only 2 people so far, so this will be more people trying it in Canada.
Sorry, I thought that OpenAI and Elon Musk are mortal enemies now. I forgot.
Yeah, they are.
But, if you've got that direct brain interface, it's going to be a lot easier to train the neural network on your literal neural network.
It's going to be a lot easier to use your processing power to train an AI eventually.
That sounds vaguely Matrix-ish, right? Or is that more... we've got
The
another...
Matrix, they're just using as batteries. They don't care about your thoughts or your feelings or anything. They just want your human juice.
Oh, that's the oversight. Then it's like, oh, we're using your brain power as compute resource as well. That would make more sense than battery power.
Well, speaking of human juice, in particular your brain juices and what you can do with them, there is another competitor who is looking to get those juices out of you.
China is bombarding tech talent with job offers. The West is freaking out. It's like, hey, you're smart. Would you like to come work for us? It's actually kind of brilliant because if you would like to disrupt an economy, like let's assume that you're doing this for nefarious purposes. What more amazing way to disrupt an economy than to just pay the key people at some company to just go home?
Well, I think they're not going home. They're going to China, right?
They're going to China, yeah.
They could go to China and work on things that don't matter, or things that is just busy work, or things that no one is going to pay attention to. Or they could work from home. Like, they don't even have to go to China. But it would,
I'm pretty sure they are going to China, though. They mentioned that, a lot of people, they get messages from someone on LinkedIn, and they'll offer to pay them 2 to 3 times what they get paid in the U.S., and then they have to move to China, and that's it's calculated brain drain.
But not only they don't want just your brain, they want the knowledge that you've got about the thing that you're working in.
Yeah.
They want to steal that technology. That's not a new gambit for them, but seems like they're willing to up the pay a little bit, which is interesting because a lot of the companies here pulling that back. Although this was Germany that they were complaining about.
Yeah.
And Singapore, we've recently learned, they have some very draconian laws about owning a car because they got a little bitty island and they got to try to, keep everybody from clogging up the roads. And they are full tilt into self-driving to try to solve that. And that story was like a month ago? Seems like they're making some quick strides.
How Singapore became the ideal testing ground for self-driving cars. And they've got a fun little video of this. They call it a minibus. It's actually just a 4-seater.
You kind of see it.
It's neat.
Oh, look, we're all riding in the bus, too, if we turn around.
So, if you get it's a small island. So this thing just loops all day long from the airport to the major centers or whatever. And the dude to the back of the head you're looking at there, he is the security driver, but he never touches that wheel unless he has to. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah. I like to take the bus when I was in college. There was a little bus that went around the campus.
Just ride it all day?
No, it was cold where I lived.
Just day drink on the bus?
Hey, Bob. I'm just drinking on campus.
And one of the things about the CHIPS Act that, all the money that Intel is supposed to be getting and the other companies are getting is to bring the manufacturing to the United States. But here's the thing. They're not giving us the good stuff. They're giving us
it's pretty good.
It'll give you 2 or 3 years ago. But this stuff that we're working on fresh, that's going to be ours for a while. And it seems like maybe the whole tariff talk might be spooking them a little bit.
Taiwan is ready to discuss 2 nanometer transfer to U.S. following Trump's comments. But the subheadline is, but TSMC may have different plans. So it is subtlety. It may not be technology that's 3 years behind, but generally TSMC doesn't want to transfer technology that's on the current node. They only want to transfer technology that's 1 node behind. But even 1 node behind is state-of-the-art technology. We don't have the volume to produce the world's demand for all of that. And the fab that TSMC has already done I think it's already online in Arizona. And the things that is producing, they said, has a similar yield to the other fabs that they're bringing online. Similar yield even to Taiwan. So that's promising, and that's very good.
At the bottom of the world, they didn't have Thanksgiving because they don't have that. But during that time,
The emus took it from them.
a dark reality. We're pronouncing it wrong. People are very upset about that.
Emu?
Emu.
Emu? There's no Y in that word.
Listen, I'm just the messenger here. I like emu better as well.
Yeah, it sounds funnier.
But instead of delicious turkey, what you got is draconian social media laws. Now, a lot of this, they're saying rushed here. Did you guys see anything in here about how they're going to do this? I don't think they've decided yet.
No.
I think this is like, because it has to be either biometrics or
ID on file.
yeah, like government ID that you have to give before going online. They haven't said what it's going to be, but it has to be one of those things. But that's not ready yet, right?
Nope. Big Tech says Australia rushed its social media ban for youths under 16. Yeah, they sure did. It's now law. It's like, oh, you can't get on social media if you're under 16. And it's not just that you fill out a form. It's like, yes, I'm over 16. It's like, yes, I'm over 18. You are required to. This is the whole you need an ID to get on the internet thing. This is quite bad for Australians. But they're going to, again, level one, we talked about how Australia is like the incubator for all the worst ideas.
Yeah.
Sorry, Australia.
I think the Trump administration is going to push, like they're going to do the whole 230 thing, and this is going to be the end game for that, right?
Yeah, the 230 thing is probably going to be if we don't have your ID, you're
right.
exempted from 230. Otherwise, you can be not exempted from 230, but then we have somewhere to blame. But this is going to be bad because a lot of companies like Nintendo, imagine Nintendo, it's like, we want you to tell us anybody that is privately discussing ROM piracy on your platform. They could have to do that under the law, and if their ID's on file, you're screwed.
Probably already screwed.
It's one of those things where it's like there's two things can be true at once. Like social media is terrible for kids, but also like requiring everyone to have an ID is also terrible.
Yeah. Both are going to leak your data eventually.
Yeah.
And Brazil, they're a little bit behind the times. They haven't gotten up to the advertising-based punishments yet. They're still off on this whole App Store thing. But we know how this plays out.
Brazil antitrust body rules Apple must lift restrictions on in-app payments. This is exactly the same thing that has played out in Europe and even the US with Epic Games, where Apple wants to be the gatekeeper and middleman for all transactions that go through the App Store. And Brazil is saying, no, app developers can direct people to make payments through Brazilian payment systems. It does not need to go through the App Store.
Now, one of the ways that you can determine whether or not you're actually a cool person is if anybody pretends to be you. If they don't, you're probably a loser. But over on Blue Sky, it's a hot new place. Not everybody's going there, but a lot of the squatters are going there because it's a fresh time, and they're trying to do something about it.
Blue Sky implements a quote-unquote more aggressive impersonation policy. Parody and fan accounts will have to clearly label their profiles, but this profile also, or the profile policy also talked a lot about identity churn. There's a lot of folks that change their identity and their handle often, and Blue Sky does not want that.
Interestingly, if you are from a entity that has a website, you can put a DNS record in and claim that handle, which is an interesting way of doing that. And Blue Sky has an API, which sounds great, right? Because it's decentralized, and that's what we all want when it comes to social media. What they didn't think about when they probably started working on that was the rise of AI, because now it's a whole different concern.
It's the world's tiniest headline.
Yeah, the TechCrunch layout for these
Should be an
shorts.
H1.
Blue Sky's open API means anyone can scrape your data for AI training. The last time we covered Blue Sky, this has been probably about 3 weeks ago, we literally said that. It was like, it was this story about how Blue Sky said, we're not going to train
Which is
your
nice,
data.
but then it doesn't mean anybody else is going to listen to it.
Yeah, we literally, they turned what we said into an article.
They didn't even cite us.
It's not nefarious. It's not like Blue Sky's partnering with one of the AI things. It's literally just like anybody can get it because it's decentralized. So obviously AI is going to train on it.
For what it's worth, for the article, they did miss, there is a robots.txt directive not to do that, but
But someone could come along
Yes.
and add just one more layer,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't matter anymore. So it's going to happen. If you're posting on Blue Sky, you're talking directly to ChatGPT and Claude.
I feel like that's true of just any social media anywhere on the internet now. Like,
I think so.
you're just training an AI. Don't talk to the internet. Store.level1text.com.
And you know what? I should have put this with the Australia story, right? Because here it is. They are laying the foundational work.
Meta gains esteem and is pushed to make Apple and Google verify users' ages. Yeah, so the masterstroke here, and MSN missed this, I think, is Meta wants to be the identity provider. Like, Meta is willing to handle your ID and to handle all your stuff. Hell, they may already have it. And then once Meta verifies who you are, they're willing to open up and offer that service to other companies.
Importantly, they want, why Apple and Google? Because they want the App Store to be the point at which you confirm your identity. So apps on the App Store would be flagged for requiring identity, like the Facebook app, and then you can't even download it until you tell Google or Apple who you are. So that way, Facebook doesn't really have to worry about it. They push it off on somebody else. And Meta has some problems. They have some problems on their own protocols about confirming who people are.
Meta removes over 2 million accounts linked to pig butchering scams.
Did you read this and say, I have never heard the term pig butchering scam?
No.
I have never heard that.
Oh my God, I watched so many YouTube videos about pig butchering.
I've heard it referred to as like catfishing, but never pig butchering.
Pig butchering is different. Like, so catfishing, you're just pretending to be someone else, right?
Right.
Pig butchering, you develop a relationship and then you're like, hey, I've got this amazing crypto I want to get you in on the ground floor of. And the reason you're a pig is because they fatten you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They let you
I mean,
pull.
catfishing's kind of the same thing.
But catfishing can be purely for entertainment.
I guess that's true. You're not fattening them up necessarily. You're just doing it for the lulz.
And you sometimes will pay people. Often you'll pay people, the pigs. Like, you'll give them something back. Like, look at all these gains that we're making. Are you ready to invest more?
Oh.
So that's the fattening part. That's how you go from catfish to pig.
If you've noticed in the YouTube comments, the ones that get through the bots, a lot of the time, the comments are things like, oh, so-and-so really helped me save a bunch of money or really kick off my savings thing or whatever. Yeah. That is one of those pig butchering schemes.
Here's the Telegram link.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or
we will never put a Telegram link in any of our comments. If you ever look at that, I'm like, is that L1? No.
My new favorite one is like, hey, I remember setting up this crypto wallet, 17 years ago. Here is my key seed phrase. What do I do with that?
And over in Australia, they are also working to make sure that they prevent this kind of thing when you're on those social media platforms, once you've got your government ID, of course, because for some reason, people believe that celebrities want to just give them free money.
The Guardian's headline is Meta is going to force financial advisors to be verified in a bid to prevent celebrity scam ads targeting Australians. So why would you go to Meta to get financial advisor?
People go to Facebook for everything. This is exactly like the crypto rules. They literally just copy pasted the crypto rules to any kind of financial thing.
They were talking about like 401k and like retirement planning stuff though, right? Like that. It's like
anything.
Because it's like you can go with, it's like come to us for retirement planning, but it was actually like Bob's Dogecoin importer or whatever, and it's like that's probably not good.
Dogecoin importer.
It's probably not great for retirement planning.
Same rules also for political ads. So you can't just, when you throw up an ad about finances or politics, there's got to be an extra little thing that's like, here's who actually paid for this. And finally, TikTok is doing everything that they can not to end up like what's happening with Australia and not to get banned in America. They're trying hard to answer all of the complaints.
TikTok will block beauty filters for teens over mental health concerns. This is The Verge's headline.
There's a great little TikTok here where this really illustrates it. And then, boom, there's the real girl.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing technology.
It's
apparently,
the face slimming ones too are always like really weird.
apparently this one has that. Like
Yeah.
it makes your skin nicer,
Yeah.
slims your face, makes everything better.
It's the Ozempic filter. Click.
You just don't have, you don't even click. Yeah. It's just like, oh, it's there.
But magazines have been doing this since the 90s,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
But you couldn't do it on yourself. Also, like, I mean, a lot of phones have this built in now. Like, when you open up your camera the first time, it's like, do you want to turn on the beauty filter? Like,
now they mentioned the dog ear filter and all that
the
stuff.
silly ones are, they're staying.
But who decides?
What's silly?
Yeah,
Eyeliner is not silly. Dog ears, silly.
Okay. I don't know.
But what if it's like a fun pattern on that?
All right, that's the end of round one.
That's the end of
Act one.
We have so many people to thank. It's just
Yeah,
it's
thank you,
just
guys.
madness. Genevieve Day, I think I mentioned earlier. Talia Ahmed, thank you. Yum, $2. Liquid Exodus, I love level 1 chip 777. Top rack stovepipe, $2. No comment. We get a sticker.
Oh.
I was about to go to a meeting. Take my money. Okay. Indiana cornbread nerd. 3 people I look forward to seeing most. It's hardly ever good news, but delivered in the best way. Hello from an Indianapolis data center.
What a great username.
Congratulations on your data center haul. That's got to be exciting, given that the cost per square foot in that facility has tripled over the last 10 years. Colonel Cluster something. Please make Krista's drink flavored moonshine, preferably from a gas station or a quickie mart. That's my holiday
yeah.
tradition.
Last year I had the little tiny things of moonshine that I tried out, and one of them tasted like a Yankee Candle.
Thank you, RJT.
It's not great.
Nubbin, who's getting ready for surgery. Notice me, Senpai. What laptop? This is the Framework 16, and it's been battle hardened. It's been many thousands of miles, and it's starting to give just a little bit because
No, it's just getting broken in.
I've been hard on it. Martin says, are these going to be normal episodes? I need to sleep soon. Yes, these are going to be broken up into 3 as normal.
You can watch later.
But
we're not going to make 3 videos.
Yeah, just the giant
Yeah.
live stream. Yeah.
Douglas Hayen, $20. Thank you. Jay Proud, appreciate the content. Thanks. Luxor, I work as a business faults SME in a large ISP. The company has acquired 5 or 6 AI companies, and AI has become the main focus. They're now working on an AI agent to replace agents. Wondering what you think I should do to prepare. Embrace the AI, learn how it works, and be like in charge of all of the AI and the data that it feeds and all of that. You'll be irreplaceable. Or you'll be able to like
Become the IT wizard who knows where all the bodies are buried.
yeah, basically. Martin, many thanks for all the links week in, week out. I wish there were more episodes a week to fill my commutes. Greetings from the Netherlands. Thank you. Jonathan Briggs, pee poo poo, as is tradition. Thank you. Eusforos, happy holidays.
Hey.
Oh, $100. Wow. Thank you. That's
The whale.
Yeah.
He's
thank
on
you.
our Twitch chat a lot.
Artist Layman, thank you. Hi, everybody. What's your favorite security question? What's your favorite quadratic equation?
I don't think people ask that. That's not a thing people ask for.
You can define your own security question sometimes. So that's a lot of fun. So how's the chat doing? Anybody else?
Well, I don't think we had anyone we missed.
Get started. Artist Layman. Okay, we're going into Act 2. So if you do the super chat thing, it'll be at the end of this. Just FYI. And thank you all.
Now, this is word of the year from one of the dictionaries.
It's the Australian dictionary, and I was like, only Australia would be so brave.
BBC had a different one, which we'll talk about in nonsense. And every dictionary does their own, right?
I think so, yes.
But I think this one might have nailed it.
Yeah.
This might be the one.
Enshittification is officially the biggest word of the year, which I think the rise of enshittification is largely thanks to Cory Doctorow, if he didn't coin it.
He did
It was,
coin it.
2022 was when it was coined, and now everyone's on board.
Yeah, he's a writer. He's a gifted writer, and he has a lot of interesting takes on things. But this is the adversarial relationship with every company and every technology that we all face. Think about like your experiences just printing something. It's like, I would like to buy and own a printer that can take material from the computer and put it on paper. And think about the feelings that conjures up. And that's because you've experienced something that has enshittified over the years. And now all aspects of our life, we're faced with that. Think about like peanut butter. It's like, what could you possibly find wrong with going to the store and buying peanut butter? Well,
Going to the store. That's it. That's it. Having to be around people.
they sell you less peanut butter than they used to, but they can't be honest about it. They have to change the shape of the packaging so that it appears to be the same size, but it actually contains a lower volume of peanut butter, because there is something inherently dishonest about that if you're not paying attention to every little thing.
And one of the things that's getting worse is the workplace. And a lot of these companies are laying everybody off and hiring AI or buying back their stock, but they catch a lot of flack for that. Like Intel, probably that was a big part of what has happened with Intel. So the question is, how do you trick people? How do you shrinkflate your workforce without anybody noticing?
The most hated way of firing someone is more popular than ever. It is the age of the performance improvement plan. So basically you tell somebody, it's like, hey, you're underperforming. Here's your performance improvement plan. And it's an impossible standard, something they've never lived up to. And then when they can't meet that, then they're let go.
That article was cut off, but if you read it, it's not cut off. You don't get paywalled out of it. They give you like some example ones, and they're so vague.
Yeah.
It's so vague.
And there's a lot that you have to do. And you
Yeah.
usually have to accomplish it in like 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is completely unrealistic.
You know, everybody talks about like Intel and shrinking jobs and blah, blah, blah. But actually, Intel hired a bunch of people when Pat joined. And then I think they're only slightly less now than they were when he joined as CEO. So it's really like they have shed a lot of people, but they also hired a lot of people. And did they keep a lot of the people that they hired and got rid of some of the old people that have been there forever? That seems like part of it.
Well, we know that the cloud wars are raging, and these companies will do almost anything to take the other company down with regulatory capture. But they're kind of evenly matched when it comes to that. They're all embedded in the government the same amount. So they're always, trying to create coalitions behind the scenes.
Google offered millions to ally itself with trade body fighting Microsoft. The LREG has seen a presentation to CISPE members in which some sources say was intended to keep the lawsuit over licensing alive. So what was your take on this with like Google Cloud? Was Google basically saying Microsoft is using its licensing to compete unfairly with Azure?
I think what they were saying was these people already had the complaint. Microsoft was looking to settle it and like, okay, we're going to make these changes. And Google went to them and they were like, hey, if you don't take their offer, look at all this Google credit that you could have. That was like 100,000 in Google hosting per entity.
See, I thought that they were trying to be more
Subtle.
more focused on like the Google compute aspect of it. Because I'm thinking about this purely from like, a lot of you in the audience, data center adjacent, whatever. If you're Google and you're sitting on this and you look at it, and it's like the Google compute engine and like what they've done to scale is really well. And then Microsoft came out of nowhere with Azure. And now Azure is actually legitimately, by every metric you can come up with, almost a better product than Google Compute. And so I thought there was some nuance of that kind of saltiness in that Google was like, I don't understand how Microsoft Azure is legitimately better than what we have in Google Compute, because it shouldn't be. And yet here we are. And it is actually, even without the licensing, Azure is objectively better than Google Compute.
Well, we need a new way to handle our AIs, right? Because they're going to be with us always, right?
Whether
here.
you will it or no.
And what are you going to do when your AI is taking care of you? Maybe you got more than one. It seems like that's the way to go, right? You have different AIs for different things, and you have one unifying entity to put them together. Wouldn't it be great if that worked as well as Android? What?
Former Android leaders are building an operating system for AI agents. Oh, Lord.
God help us.
Android can't even get copy paste right. Like they love to, it's just, I want to copy this to the clipboard. Let's send this directly to this 73 apps that you have installed against your will. It's like, I don't need a shortcut to send this link in my email to TikTok. Like I'm never going to do that. TikTok's not even supposed to be installed. My carrier did that. I had no say in that.
I mean, you can delete it later sometimes.
Hey, yeah, you can force it back to the original version, which has lots of security issues, but you can't actually get rid of it.
Mine always wants to install like games
Yeah.
constantly. Like I'm having to delete games that it's just like, here you go.
Well, imagine if Samsung were under an antitrust investigation. You think maybe they would stop doing that? You know when Microsoft is always under investigation for these things and they just keep making Windows worse in a way that's clearly anti-competitive? Google looked at that and they said, yes.
Hold my beer.
Google's iOS app now injects links on third-party websites that go back to search. They'll also highlight content on the web page, and it does a couple of other things. Basically, if you're using this, it's, oh, you're looking at the web page, are you? I think this is a misguided attempt to, you remember accelerated mobile pages, AMP? I think this is an attempt to have something that functions a little like AMP. With AMP, if you don't remember, when you would click a link on Google search, you would stay on Google, but it would show you the web page on Google. And Google came out with this thing that said, hey, here's how you package your web page so that we can just host it for you on mobile because your web server's too slow. And that's bad for you and that's bad for us. And so if you do this, we'll rank your pages higher. So this is kind of the same thing.
You know where else I've seen this? Browser malware.
Yeah. I don't want this. I want to be able to send a link to someone and they just go to the link.
You know who else doesn't want it? The web page owners.
Yeah.
The web page owners don't want it, but like with accelerated mobile pages, because I was in a lot of those meetings, it was, we have to do this because Google is downranking us. If we don't do this, we will die.
Are you saying that the business was dependent on Google, perhaps as monopoly?
The business was dependent on people being able to find their web page, which by extension had something to do with Google, yes.
Now here's a question. Do you trust Microsoft when they tell you that they're not spying on you? Have we ever seen them say that and be lying about it?
This story was really interesting, though. Microsoft says Word and Excel AI data scraping was not switched to enabled by default, updated. And so if you look at some stuff in the telemetry of Word and Excel, there is a setting that says it's going to upload stuff to Microsoft. And so Microsoft was quick to clarify, no, we do upload stuff, your documents, but it's not for AI training. It's so that we can do quality control and know how you use the product and do that kind of stuff. But the stuff that is uploaded, we don't use for AI training unless you opt in over here. And then we also use it for AI training. So the update was not that they denied looking at your documents. It was that they were looking at your documents for the purposes of AI training. But I guarantee you some precocious, intern on team A is going to say, wait a minute, we've got all this data. I can make the AI so much better if I just train it on your data, and then it'll all be over.
Now maybe it's the holiday season. Maybe you bought some new hardware. Maybe you're going to do a little online gaming. Well, you're going to need to be careful with that. And you don't need to be careful not just when you're online gaming.
Yeah.
In fact, every aspect of your life is now part of your Valorant account.
Riot Games is cracking down on players' off-platform conduct. Bad behavior on streams across Riot's titles. Neat.
So you know how you don't own software anymore? You're just buying a license, a tentative license. Well, it turns out if they decide that your behavior anywhere other than playing Valorant doesn't live up to their standards, they will ban your entire account.
You type C9lol in the chat, banned.
Isn't this also what, like, as I was reading this, I was thinking about the story about ISPs wanting, or a copyright cartel wanting ISPs to police how people use copyrighted content. Because it's like, oh, people are pirating stuff, but I guarantee you it's only a matter of time before the RIAA says, hey, we've detected Plex-like traffic on your network. We don't want, user A to be able to share their home movies with user B.
And think about the Australian story, right? There's going to be your identification filed somewhere that tells people exactly who you are, even beyond the real name policies that all the social medias have gone to. And then Riot Games, or perhaps this juggernaut, is going to come along and say, you need to be deplatformed and debanked.
TechSpot's headline is Nintendo seeks to subpoena Reddit for details on piracy group members. Piracy group members is just /r/switch pirates. Like, what if you were just curious and you looked in there? Or what if you were searching and you ended up in there and clicked on something? Because if you're already logged in Reddit, it remembers that you looked at that. And imagine the Australian law, like you were saying, it's like it's linked to your real ID. There's a confluence of bad things happening here if you're an internet user. And then it's an uphill battle for you to say, it's like, no, this was completely innocent. I wasn't doing anything unreasonable.
Too late, your internet's been cut off. You have to go make that argument in person at the county clerk
Oh,
office.
but you're not allowed to drive anymore.
Yeah, it turns into
They've also cut off your ID entirely.
it turns into a Kafka-esque nightmare. Remember the stories that we did years ago about Chase, when it's like, oh, we've detected that you had a Coinbase transaction. You can no longer bank with us.
Well, here's a question. Was this disclosure that somebody at Qualcomm actually went through the paperwork and they were like, oh no? Or was this corporate espionage? Because they knew before everybody else did.
Tom's Hardware has the headline, Qualcomm reportedly loses interest in Intel takeover. Now, so you're saying that the reason that Qualcomm lost interest in the Intel takeover is because Pat is out because something has gone catastrophically wrong, which has not been announced yet. Is that what you're saying?
Not so A to B. I think the reason Pat is out is the reason that Qualcomm has lost interest.
I don't think Qualcomm ever really had. It wouldn't make sense for Qualcomm to have any interest, really.
But that is probably the story of the week. Certainly the mainstream media is making this the story of the week.
Maybe in the Foundry. The Reuters headline is Intel CEO Gelsinger forced out after board lost confidence in turnaround plan. That's what Reuters has gone with, but I don't know that there's really any official, unless there's new data that has come out since we've been sitting here. All my buddies in this, nobody had any clue, and it was out of the blue, and it's retroactive as to yesterday. There's no transition plan, and usually if Pat Gelsinger had a stroke or something, and we don't want to talk about it for health reasons, it would look a lot like this. But also if the board was going to do something crazy that he didn't want them to do, it would also look like this. So
This is a plot line from Succession.
Yeah, we really don't know. We really don't know what the story here is here. But I think the incoming people, I don't know much about them, but they're not on the technical side. They're on the business side. And I worry about that because I think a lot of the steaming pile of skeletons, as Charlie Demergian said at Semi-Accurate, that Pat Gelsinger inherited came from Bob Swan and people before Bob Swan running Intel like a business instead of like a technology company. And I think that's worrisome.
Well, if everybody in the world had a stroke all at the same time, this might make sense to them. Otherwise, not so much.
ISPs say their excellent customer service is why users don't switch providers.
X doubt.
This is for the FCC. And no, ISPs don't have excellent customer service. It's terrible. Not only is it terrible, here's a fun thing. If you have multiple ISPs, most of the time when the technician comes to hook up your new service, they will disconnect your old service, even if it's completely fine. So it's like, I need to have two ISPs in my house, one for work and one for like the family to just do whatever they do that causes problems with the live streaming. And so, yeah, they just, that's part of the training. Is like, there's countless stories about like the Verizon wired technicians doing that on purpose and so on. Yeah, no, it's not good customer service. Not even a little bit.
I was just talking to a friend yesterday about, like, he was like, oh, I had to go into my ISP and, like, basically haggle with them for, like, an hour or two to get my rates reduced. And I'm like, I probably need to do that soon, and I'm not looking forward.
When I just went to turn my stuff back in,
Yeah.
I had to sit there.
Yeah.
And-
no one's happy at that store.
Like, just take your garbage. But no, you have to take a number. And it's just a misery. And everybody else sitting there is in misery as well.
I turned my stuff in and they billed me $600 6 months after the fact. I had to find the paper tickets with the receipt on everything because they were like, oh, no, you didn't return this. And I was like, that's line 3. It's like, oh, you didn't return this. That's line 4.
It's like dealing with a landlord.
Yeah.
Where you have to take
like-
pictures of everything to prove you cleaned.
I have this. Like, I will take you to small claims court. Don't try me. And they're like, okay. And like another month later, they cleared it up.
Well, one mystery that the world had has apparently been solved. I don't know how good the evidence is, but they claim that there is damage that would represent exactly what happened here. But the question is, why and who benefits?
The headline is Chinese ship suspected of dragging anchor to cut Baltic cables. So we covered this last week. So here's the results of the investigation, at least according to the Asia Financial website. The ship chose a very erratic course. It drug its anchor for over 100 miles. It is probably not connected to China. It's probably not official ordering. It maybe was somebody in Russia just telling the boat captain, it's like, hey, you should do this. You could write it off as maybe an accident, maybe not. There doesn't seem to be any like spy stuff on the ship or anything like that. But the ship logs and the GPS logs are very exact. And the apparent course of the ship is almost unexplainable because it zigzagged and it was traveling at like 7 knots. And then for the time it was supposedly dragging its anchor, it was only going at 5 knots. And so like they would have known that they were dragging their anchor. So it's pretty damning evidence in my opinion. Unless the ship captain was just drunk.
Who was the person who was logging all that so faithfully?
No, it was just the computers. All the computers, whatever the special forces were on here was like, let's just download everything from the ship. And they're like, wait a minute, it logs all that?
So cables, that's big business. And China wants to build more of them, but the US has kind of like this monopoly on it. And it means a lot to control the cables. And maybe the worst possible answer to that is letting this man do it.
Meta plans to build a $10 billion subsea cable spanning the world, sources say.
In the metaverse.
Yeah. This is part of Meta's data strategy. A lot of the time, Meta is very power constrained in a lot of their data centers, and so they will ship data around to different data centers. And so this benefits them tremendously financially because it means they need to spend less money to upgrade their infrastructure to be able to process the data locally. It's a bit of a problem for the EU because the EU wants you to process its data locally, but
They're also going to have a lot of AI data that needs to move around, bigger and bigger data sets. And that's not the undersea cables. They're already fiber optic. But what about all the stuff inside these insane computers that are doing all this stuff? We literally can't make AI happy enough with the power draw.
AI ambition is pushing copper to its breaking point. I knew that society was doomed. We now have copper-coated aluminum Cat6. So you can get aluminum Cat6 that's just a dusting, a 1 or 2 atom thick layer of copper on aluminum wires. And we're supposed to be able to do 10 gigabit over that, and it's certified for up to Cat6A. Like, you also got some swampland for me in Florida? Is that a thing?
It's very valuable.
So we need photo transmission inside the computers and the racks because copper just can't get it done, and we're going to run out of it.
Yeah, well,
it's just a little too much.
We have to have copper just for the power delivery aspect of it. I mean, good Lord.
Now, I remember when we covered a story about the very first version of this, which was direct electrical stimulation. And it didn't work that well, but they were like, yeah, this is going to be the future. It's not. Just like the metaverse. It's not. This is disgusting. It's not going to catch on.
This lollipop brings taste to virtual reality by electrocuting your tongue very selectively.
Also, like microplastics. This is just filtering microplastics directly.
As someone who tested a lot of 9-volt batteries as a child with their tongue,
As an adult,
it seems like it's permanently altered my ability to taste sweet.
Is this an AI generated image?
it looks like
That
it.
little girl's not real, is she?
No.
Yeah, this is AI generated, I think.
So this is here's a picture of it. This little thing has a gel. The gel is electrified when you go to taste it. And then it mixes and matches kind of like inkjet.
Yeah.
So for 1 hour, it can mimic a wide variety of flavors. Then you have to reload the gel cartridge. No one wants this.
Yeah, I don't. This is a solution in search of a problem.
First we had smell-o-vision. Now we have
I
taste-o-vision.
was really enjoying this Valve game until I realized I couldn't taste the head crab.
Oh, you know
I
what?
need to smell Alex's sweat
Yeah.
and taste the suffering in the air.
I thought this was going to be a nonsense, but no, this is insecurity, which was the right call. This is a security question. And this goes back to the whole, like, you're not allowed to opt out in the airport. Well, you are allowed to opt out. And these are also consensual. That is, the word consensual is used in describing this. But guess what?
It's not.
It's not consensual.
Justice Department orders the DEA searches consent or orders random DEA searches stopped at airports after A&F investigation. Yeah, so the A&F investigation showed that these were not actually consensual. It's like people were traveling and the DEA would just confiscate their money. And airline employees were being paid by the DEA to identify passengers that had purchased their tickets most recently and other factors that may indicate that, like, hey, they're traveling for whatever reason, and the DEA would just keep their cash.
So you have to have a reason for that kind of search. You have to have a reason to make that connection in the first place. So they were using confidential informants, as you mentioned, airline employees who were getting kickbacks. So if you ratted out somebody that you thought matched that and they got a cash seized for it, you got a little piece of that.
Or they were carrying the legal amount of cash, and the X-ray machine operator was like, "Oh, that's a stack of cash. Let me just radio ahead."
And amazingly, with asset forfeiture, they don't have to go with that whole pesky innocent till proven guilty thing. You have to, on the spot, prove that that money did not come from drugs or something bad. How do you do that?
It's that Kafkaesque nightmare again, the one that we were talking about like 4 stories ago.
And this one is one that we've talked about before. It just keeps getting worse. And this is the old backdoor argument. The backdoor argument should end here. It won't, but it should.
China wiretaps Americans in the worst hack in our nation's history. And the subheadline is America's aging infrastructure seems to be the culprit. That is a lie. The culprit is requiring easy remote wiretaps by law. This is when we say don't build the back door. This is the literal experience that we're talking about. We're building in crappier functionality on modern technology that is just as riddled with problems as this ancient technology that's to blame in modern technology because we're stupid.
My favorite part about this story is that they're like, yeah, they're still in there and we don't know how to stop them. Well, you could close the back door.
Yeah. Oh, no, we can't do that.
No, we're not going to do that.
Well, they
That's the
mentioned it was
last
all
thing.
people around like DC too, for the most part.
Well, that we know about.
Yeah, that we know about.
The system is so robust, multiple people can wiretap your phone line at any given time, and you don't know.
And here's your weekly reminder. WordPress, not even once.
WordPress anti-spam plugin vulnerability hits 200,000 sites. It's like, oh, it's a clean talk anti-spam WordPress plugin.
Now this one, this was written in kind of insider language, but the idea here is if you're in, education or whatever, research, and you're doing peer-reviewed papers, that whole thing is just a wasteland. Like it's lawless. They're all fake. It's terrible, but they're stepping it up to the point here where like pure fake, not even pretending a little bit, just pure fake.
Exclusive new hijacking scam targets Elsevier, Springer, Nature, and other major publishers. These publishers are kind of parasitic with the actual academics that are trying to get their stuff published.
So here is real website. Here is fake website. Can you tell the difference? No one can.
They need to use
Real?
a fancier font.
Fake.
So academics need to use Thanksgiving break and get together, and like they need a charismatic leader among them, and they'll just build their own self-publishing website that will replace all this crap.
Although they did get the gradient a little wrong on that one.
They did. So they need like a pay font, like a font from like Adobe Fonts. That's not an easy thing to get hold of, unless you're willing to put in a little money.
And they usually will use a slight misspelling of the domain. So be extra careful of your research paper domain names. And here's another one that we see every week. And that is, of course, we now have people collecting all of your health records and all of your driving data and the license plate readers and collating it, putting it together in a nice, conveniently searchable package.
Phone call.
There's my
That's how you
Indian
know
friends.
it's real.
It happens every time.
I put mine on silent before we started because I was afraid someone would message me.
But yeah, it's and I'm sure these guys are using that same database, right? Because a nice phone database, and just throw it out there.
Data broker leaves 600,000 sensitive files exposed online. So it wasn't 600,000 records. It's 600,000 files. Some of these files are pretty extensive.
170 some gigabytes.
Yeah. Some of it, I thought it was close to a terabyte with the other
You're
stuff.
right. I'm sorry. It's 700 gigabytes.
It was just 600,000 PDF files all by itself. So, yeah.
Roblox. And the snowflake hacks, they wreaked havoc on a lot of different things here recently. And a lot of people are trying to figure out who was behind it. Krebs has some clues.
Krebs on Security's headline is Hacker in Snowflake Extortions May Be a U.S. Soldier. And he lays out a pretty compelling case.
This appears to be the most damning piece of evidence. The snowflake hacker apparently posted this at some point on some forum.
It could be.
Could be misdirected.
Bloods.
Could be anybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything. A lot of people saying they're Russian, but this would point to an American living in Korea. I think it was, right? Stationed in Korea. We may never know. And we are also blaming the Russians on this.
Russia-linked hackers exploited Firefox and Windows bugs in a widespread hacking campaign. Part of this seems to be concerned with just hacking the machine and then keeping access to it and using it as a springboard for yet more hacking.
Bromcom is the name of that hacking group. What a great name. And supply chain attacks, as we've talked about in healthcare and security, all of these, it's always like, oh, we didn't lose your records. It was the supply chain. And here is once again the supply chain. But in this case, it wasn't just losing your records. They can't operate their grocery stores.
Blue Yonder ransomware attack disrupts grocery store supply chain. So this is Panasonic is the parent company of this or the owner of this. I was surprised to learn that.
And they have a lot of UK grocery stores, I think it was, right? And they can't do much of anything. They can't get their shipments. They can't pay their employees. I think Starbucks was one of the companies here. Couldn't pay their employees because it all goes through these guys, and they've been ransomware.
That's going to happen. That has happened a couple of times. The aforementioned, like, oh my gosh, you have to comply with all this medical record stuff. Some solution for that is to just run it all in the cloud. So there's a bunch of cottage industry providers that provide all that in the cloud, but that makes them a prime ransomware target. And then it's just like, oh, it's all going to be offline for a day or two while we recover.
But there's some systems that you literally cannot recover, at least not realistically, because it would cost more to do that than to just make a new one. And it's not happened yet that we know of, but probably coming, right?
In the new space race, hackers are hitching a ride into orbit. Can hackers control the satellite swarm, the network? See also what happened with the Ukraine invasion? It's like, oh, the non-SpaceX satellite provider went offline. And the hackers were very careful to only try to take offline folks that were in the war zone, but they accidentally crippled everybody. Almost everybody.
And it's not just the data brokers who are hoovering up every single byte that they possibly can. It's also the AI training data. It's basically the same data set, right? Except they like more than just your identity information. They want all the copyright works and everything. But you have to store them somewhere. And they've done it poorly.
AI chatbot builder leaks hundreds of thousands of records online. Your private chats.
They were never private.
Not only were they never private, they're now an indelible part of the human record. Like they've been added to the panopticon of all human knowledge, which is, that's probably enough to drive some people to bad things.
The risk of outsourcing. Does anyone, I guess someone must use them, but like, I know a lot of clients are really pushing like, oh, we really need a chatbot. And I'm like, does anyone actually interact with that?
Well, I mean, you don't have an option, right?
You got to use the AI.
Yeah, you can't call them. You can't message them. Talk to the AI. Escalate from the AI. It's the only way you're going to be able to. It's like how when you get the operator, like the automated call system, right? That's just going to be a chatbot from now on.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the chatbot worked correctly, I mean, it would be an amazing way to interact with things, or just another human being. Like I've got an antique lamppost that's been outside for 50 years. I've sandblasted it. I would now like someone to do a powder coat on it. So let me call a powder coat. and explain. It's like, do what now? I was like, we only powder coat this kind of. I was like, I know, but this is a lamppost. You could totally powder coat this. Like, what would you charge me to do that? And they're like, I don't know. But an AI, that's totally something an AI agent could figure out, and it would be
An AI agent
less
would say,
headache.
that's outside of my parameters I've been trained on. I'm sorry. And then they would just hang up on you.
Yeah, I mean, probably, but it's all good. The frothing otter, thank you. I wanted to say thank you for the three of you for bringing logic to the to the illogical every week. Yeah, it's like our guiding principle is like, there are reasonable people out there. Just try to be reasonable, and like, we can look at something and completely misunderstand it or completely get it wrong, or even change our opinion based on new information coming to light. This is not an unreasonable way for one to behave. Like, why is everything so extreme these days? It doesn't need to be. That's why.
Because that's what you get engagement with on the algorithm.
Elle says, love the channel. What's your recommended automatic surveillance vacuum? If you don't mean like a literal vacuum, like automatic surveillance, like thing that's in a vacuum, is Frigate in VR, and you can do Coral AI modules. That works really well. Frosty, my husband introduced me to your channel, and now I kind of understand what you're talking about. Thanks for the links, and happy holidays from Prague. Oh, Prague's very nice, I've heard. Yeah. So JW Dickinson is like, attention everyone, banana, you may now carry on. Thank you.
Had a banana right before we came here.
Mike Quinton, looking at SSD manufacturers, what is the real difference between WD or Samsung versus Orico or similar SSD? Is the Samsung outsourcing the other SSD manufacturers? Samsung does a lot of their own stuff. A lot of the time, other SSD manufacturers will be based on a controller from like Phison or whoever. SK Hynix is real. Samsung is real. Kioxia is very real. Gimpy Chinaman? That's funny. Still supporting the Boiler State Conservancy. $20, thank you.
Has he? He's probably been
It's
on the last
cold.
couple days.
Yeah, it's cold today, but he's not making much noise.
Not making any noise.
He was on earlier. He was very on earlier. He goes to sleep around 5 p.m. though, because
it's late in the day.
The latent heat will carry us. Yeah. So that's fun times. All right, are we
We've had our
ready?
first snow here in Kentucky chat room. That's weird to
It
have
wasn't
snow
the
this year.
first.
Yeah.
One like 2 weeks ago, right?
Tech Potato says my LG washing machine needs to use at least 5 gigs a day. If it doesn't, it's not doing what it needs to do. I saw that news article as well. It's like somebody's LG washing machine's just, it's like, what is it? Is it streaming live audio the whole time? Because that's
You gotta get a dumb washer.
I've got an LG TV that tries to do that. If you just shove a USB stick in the, it messed up the encryption. And if you just shove a USB stick in a USB port, because it can play MP4s or MKVs and a couple other formats, it literally sends the file names to LG, like the directory like everything that's on the SSD, it'll send to LG, which I thought was wild. Anyway, on with Act 3.
The AI section.
That is almost all AI.
And here is something that we've seen here in the United States. So not surprising that our neighbors would pick this up.
Canada's major news organizations band together to sue ChatGPT creator OpenAI. They said, hey, stop it. You're using our stuff.
That we put on a website for everybody to see. I put this trash outside my house and everybody keeps coming and getting it.
This is not really super related, but I had to watch a lot of children's shows this weekend, and most of them sucked. But there was one that was actually really cute, and it was Canadian. It was called The Storybots, and it was all like math and science related, but it was like little bots, and they would teach you about like fractions and space and dinosaurs. And I was like, oh, this is cute.
What was the worst?
Some of them, they're just like brain rot, where it's like, there was one where it was a little girl, and she just was putting different hats on a cat. I mean, it was cute, but it was like...
Well, that sounds better than robots.
The Storybots? The Storybots were educational, at least.
I already have that information.
I'm already smart enough. I don't know. I don't need to know anything else, but what hat is that cat going to wear?
Well, this man is dead, unfortunately.
Yes.
But thanks to AI, he can be dragged from the grave and serve once again his beautiful parent company.
The Japan Times headline is the quote-unquote god of management comes back to life as an AI model.
What a horrible portfolio to have.
They're talking
As a
about
D&D god.
Matsushita, the guy that's in the of the same name, Panasonic, and how he managed, like he built, like Japanese consumer electronics of the 80s and 90s, and like took over the universe, built, single-handedly saved Japan's economy. They took all of his writings because he wrote a lot of books. And they also interviewed a bunch of people that are still alive that had learned directly from him. And they all say, yes, the AI is very good. It responds very similarly to him because there was a volume of works from this individual. And this kind of technology is only going to get better with time. So all this nonsense that has been saved, since time immemorial, and all the data that we talk about leaking, eventually some AI can take all of the things that you've ever written or posted and every email you've ever sent or read and put that together and reproduce something that's not wholly dissimilar from you.
Well, the word of the year, at least in Australia, we've learned, was enshittification. And the question may be, where are we in that process? What percentage are we? Well, if we just look at one data point being LinkedIn, it's basically complete.
I'll never look at LinkedIn.
Yes, that viral LinkedIn post you read was probably AI generated. This is also there's a secondary effect of that kind of a process, and that is after the thing you feel you have been robbed of time. There's definitely been times where I've been reading a post and it seems reasonable and well written, and I'll get a third of the way or halfway through, and it's like, wait a minute. This is not actually actionable. There's nothing useful here. This is all
Or it's
well
just
written
an
fluff.
advertisement. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I feel like I've been robbed.
So this was some company that has a service to find AI generated stuff, to recognize it. They figured out Originality AI. That's their name. They figured out that it was a massive percentage, but interestingly enough, very little of it they believed was generated by LinkedIn's own AI. It seemed like people went for ChatGPT or other major models to do their stuff. They also determined it wasn't just job seeking and job listing, but this thought leader nonsense. Turns out a lot of the thought leaders are actually just regurgitating AI garbage.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise.
I've noticed the last couple of weeks, Google has been cracking down on a lot of the AI generated garbage as well. The search results have improved somewhat in that there's much less AI generated garbage. Now there's more garbage, but maybe that's a sign that nature is healing, because it's like, oh, I at least know that this is obviously AI generated, so I'm getting more random results. But it's still pretty Reddit heavy, which I find disappointing.
Oh, I feel like Google has just started pushing their AI, like their own AI summaries to the top all the time, and that annoys me.
Those are so bad most of the time for the things that I'm searching for that I'm already mentally filtering those out.
Yeah.
Well, here's another vector that you're going to be filtering out, because the barrier to write a book is pretty low. There's some really terrible books out there. But unless you're doing vanity publishing where you pay for everything yourself, you do have to get it past a publisher. They have to be like, okay, maybe we can make some money with this. Not anymore.
The Guardian's headline is, writers condemn startups' plans to publish 8,000 books next year using AI. The AI will be responsible for copy editing and playing the role of editor and copy helper and blah,
Design
blah, blah.
the cover,
Yeah.
marketing, social media, all that. So basically, they are just going to take your work, shove it in this machine, and whatever comes out the other end, that's fine. It's only going to cost you $1,200.
How will you know when you've got a well-written book versus one that's AI-generated garbage? It'll be the Amazon model. Like, I love how people say we can't predict what's going to happen with this, but you literally can. Cables. Go buy cables on Amazon. The good cables...
Use any tech product in the last 5 years.
Yeah, the good products are drowned out by the sheer volume of just awfulness. It's like, I would like to... I have an old house, and I would like to learn how to make replacement casings for my windows that have rotted out. And I have to learn how to use a router and do some. It's like, I need a good book on that, and it's just all AI generated garbage. And the one or two books that were really good, that were written by an artisan who is generally trying to put knowledge into a knowledge jar, is drowned out by just the volume of awfulness.
Well, you know who else produces a lot of unnecessary words? LLMs.
Yeah.
And I, for one, really appreciate the concise filter.
Anthropic says Claude AI can match your unique writing style. It is really nice when you tell them, it's like, be very concise, and it's like, oh, I could learn to speak and write better if I paid attention here.
They will also do the flowery one if you want to try to trick other people into thinking that you wrote that LinkedIn post.
You know what my favorite one is? The Victorian style. If you want something, if you want it to talk to you in a Victorian style, I saw somebody post on Twitter something hilarious, which was, the way that you would say someone was plain and mediocre in modern language was this, but then like the Victorian version of that was incredible. It was like, it was like he had a certain plainness about him, or it was quite middling, and it's just
That was a Tumblr post from like 5 years ago.
yeah. It's like
It was probably picked up from Tumblr.
it was incredible.
Stolen from Tumblr.
It's like, but you can just have the LLM respond to you that way, and it's just like, this is amazing.
And I don't look forward to the AI revolution where we all lose all of our value and basically get farmed for our
Juices.
Neuralink brains. But I do feel a little bit of catharsis in this bitter, bitter irony that is happening.
AI helps India's Misho cut some customer call costs by 75%.
The Indians have been outsourced. Ouch. And NVIDIA, not their most exciting press release.
This is an ominous headline, but the result was not that exciting.
Yeah, not that impressive, but it's AI, so I threw it in there.
NVIDIA claims a new AI audio generator can make sounds never heard before. Fugato can edit music or speech or sounds based on a text prompt. So it's like, hey, take this sound and make it sound like this. And it's like, okay, here you go.
Or you can describe a sound. So like they did an example where it was like, say the kids are outside talking, and then they said like, say it happy, say it sad. Except like when it did it angry, it got angry pretty close. But then when you said like, say it happy, it was just like,
Why was I made to feel pain?
I didn't seem to understand.
AI has never known happiness.
Yeah,
This cat is not wearing headphones on its ears.
it's wearing it on his cheeks.
It's not going to do anything.
This was the one with the example of the train horn turns into an orchestra, right?
That was also not great.
I thought that was really okay. I've got zero points in music.
The other one was, I thought a little bit better. I can't remember what it was now. It was like an echoing sound or something like that. That one was good. But then when it tried to blend into the strings, it was very like, it was a train blending into a full string orchestra. And it was kind of muddy.
If music is the AI's weak point, you're going to be screwed in the AI revolution because we're all going to have to try to use that.
You have to remove all your points.
Yeah, bot checker. It's like, are you a real human? Here's your musical ability. And it's like, oh no.
The musical captcha.
Yeah.
That's going to defeat you. Rhythm-related captchas. And who has the most robots? Well, the answer is South Korea. But that's not what this article's about. They are talking about number 3 and 4.
China overtakes Germany in industrial use of robots, says report.
There are some cool ratios in this article. I think it was like South Korea was it 100 for every 10,000 workers?
Was
I'm squinting trying to see.
China is 470. Germany is 429. South Korea is 1,000 per 10,000. 10%. That's terrifying.
I've noticed that
2024 is best deal.
Twitter has become filled with hype videos that don't appear to be real of the humanoid robots from Musk.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's paying handsomely to promote those.
Can you see that?
No. Uber and Lyft.
I wasn't able to read this one because of how aggressive it was.
This is another, they're taking our jobs. When you, in turn, already took some jobs. It never ends, bro.
Yeah, Uber and Lyft are complaining that Waymo is hurting their drivers because Waymo is cheaper because it doesn't involve a driver.
And people don't care. They're happy to have the robots drive them around. And the yellow cab drivers are like, yeah, remember us?
It's like, who are you again?
And we know that it has been announced that Mr. Elon Musk will be spearheading getting driverless cars everywhere in America with his newfound power. And it seems like he's gearing up for it.
Tesla is looking to hire a team to remotely control its self-driving robo-taxis.
Which
Wait a
seems
minute.
like a misnomer.
But it says self-driving.
Not only that, I bet you they end up being linked via Starlink, and the minimum latency there is going to be on the order of 25 milliseconds. And guess what your braking reaction time is normally? It's like 18 milliseconds. Or no, it's like 180. It's crazy.
But it turns out they're all doing it. Cruise has admitted every 4 to 5 miles a human steps in on average.
Oh, that's what we found that out with some of the AI stuff that was taking orders at like McDonald's and stuff too. It was all outsourced.
Yes.
It wasn't actually full self-driving or full self-ordering, whatever.
So it's actually more terrifying than just robots driving. It's robots and maybe like half engaged humans sometimes.
Yeah, they went to go up and take a pee break, get a coffee and stuff, and they're getting a notification. It's like, you need to engage the brakes now.
They're using the motion sensor on their phone while they're in the bathroom. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to drive. And all of that, if that's really getting you down, then maybe you need to go to the UK or Canada. You can also do Canada.
CNN's headline is UK lawmakers vote in support of assisted dying. And this one is actually complicated, like really complicated from a technological and an insurance standpoint. And I also want you to remember this headline when we get to the nonsense section, because the nonsense section, we're going to have a really dark story, really dark story.
We are in the nonsense section.
So I think this should be a thing. Like, you should reach a point where it's like, my prospects are not good.
I'm checking out.
I'm checking out. Yeah, you should be able to make that choice. But the problem with this is that insurance companies are going to push you to do that.
Well, you have to have a terminal illness with less than 6-month prognosis. But, I mean, insurance is going to push the doctors, and the doctors are going to be
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, if you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, do you realize a paper cut when you're 80 is terminal unless it's treated?
I mean, yeah, you could make that argument for anything. Well, it's like, well, if it got infected and you didn't treat it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's like, well, we just give you a course of antibiotics, but then the insurance doesn't want to pay for the antibiotics.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we've made we pulled an insulin and made antibiotics $9,000
Yeah.
a course. So
And keeping that in mind, now we are talking about America here, but we are not the number one anymore. We used to lead the world in this metric. Not anymore. A lot of people still believe that's not the case. We started the trend, admittedly, but we've shipped off the fake food to everywhere else. So think about this stat when you're thinking about that other thing about, it's like, well, how sick am I going to be eventually?
208 million Americans are classified as obese or overweight, according to a new study synthesizing 132 data sources. I don't know if this is true or not, because again, this data source is so polluted, but it seems like there is a link between carbohydrates as your major source of fat. So it's like, it's not bad if you carb out, if you also have other sources of fat, but if you don't have other sources of fat and you carb out, you become obese.
And if your carbs have been ultra processed.
80% of adults and 60% of adolescents.
Yeah, the kid number went way up.
Because kids, like, I'm going to only give my kid ultra processed food because it's the safest, cleanest. There's the impression of that versus like, it's like, oh, don't eat a fresh apple off of a tree. That's nasty. It could have insects inside
It's
it.
got sooty blotch.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out a little bit of dirt is actually good for kids.
Slather your kids in dirt. And you mentioned peanut butter earlier. That is definitely a big shrinkflation. Chips, it's easy to shrinkflate that. Some items are not as easy to shrinkflate because you're going to
People will
know.
notice.
You're going to immediately notice a difference from last month.
Explained the shrinking sanitary pad scandal that has Chinese women seeing red. This is a really interesting, like, I love these cross-cultural stories because it's like, yeah, I'd be mad too. This is terrible. This is worse than the peanut butter.
Apparently not only shrinking, and they have proven they are getting smaller, but also changing the material.
Yeah.
Which you would also notice, right?
Less
Yes.
effective.
The other crazy thing I wasn't
You're
aware
changing
of
them
this.
more often if it's less absorbent.
I did not know that apparently the Chinese have a very don't talk about that mentality with this. So much so that much like liquor in America, when you buy it, you have to have a special black bag so no one can see what you're carrying around.
I would not last in that culture.
Dark Krista would.
Yeah, I mean,
She'd be in a Chinese prison.
yeah, immediately for talking about menstruation.
And how about this? This was interesting because in the comments there was immediately bitter arguments
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
What team are you on?
This headline is doctors, and it's CNN Health too. The doctors say it's fine to pee in the shower.
I'm
It's
sure,
fine.
yeah, health-wise it's fine, but I don't want to have to clean piss out of my shower.
It goes right down the drain. The stuff you're washing off of you is also bad, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. So it just seems wrong
They
to be stepping in your own piss while you.
Here's the most disturbing thing, perhaps, in this article is that CNN felt that they needed to point out that hot tubs and bathtubs were different than the shower. That you should not pee in those, especially if other people are using them.
Oh. Do you think the editor, do you think the person wrote the article, they submitted it to the editor, and the editor was like, hey, you need to add a line about this because we've had these inquiries in the past?
Nah, probably just AI, right?
Yeah, it's all, the writer and the editor were AI.
And the healthcare industry, no matter where you are, is terrible. You know, obviously we have the insurance system, which is
Awful.
just maybe the worst thing in the world. But one tiny step behind that is socialized medicine, because not everybody gets it at the same level, even though they're supposed to.
Pensioner, 95 years old, left on cold pavement with a broken hip for 5 hours. This is in the UK, after being told by 999, their emergency number, that she is not a priority. And her husband, who is 91, stayed there with her, along with some strangers. They didn't get a car to drive her because she broke her hip.
They tried to get her up.
Yeah.
But she was in too much pain.
Yeah. And so it was like, they explained all this to 999, like, we would just get a car and bring her in, but she's in too much pain to move her. We're afraid that we're going to make it worse.
Yeah, damage it worse.
And they're just like, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. And it was, 5 hours. 5 hours. Now that it's like, your right to die. It's like, well, and she thought she was going to die there, which is, terrible. It's like, you should not die from a broken hip. I mean, she's 95, but that would be a terrible way to go.
I've noticed with aging parents, and I'm sure that many of you have experienced this well, but a lot of the healthcare professionals, when they hit a certain age, it's just like, well, you're old. That explains everything.
Yeah.
Every symptom that you're having, you're old, go home and die.
Yeah.
There's the alternative reality of that is, you're a woman. Is it just your period? And it's like, no, thanks though. Are you pregnant? No, I'm not pregnant. Are you sure? I'm 100% sure. Also, you tested me when I came in.
Well, New Zealand recently had a very, very sad accident. One of their few military ships that they have that they spent a lot of money on. It was one of our old ones. Or no, I think it was a British one, right? They bought it. They were excited about it. They sent it out to do some work, and it ran aground and was destroyed catastrophically. And no one can figure out what happened, but now we know.
New Zealand headline is the Navy ship sank and hit a reef because the crew mistakenly left it on autopilot, and it autopiloted itself right into the reef.
Full self-destroying.
Well, it could be the title if we were doing individual episodes, but we're not.
Good job, New Zealand Navy. The simplest thing in the world. You basically left the parking brake off.
Oh, there's so many pop-ups.
Oh yeah, this is the follow-up to what we covered in the first section.
Yeah.
The banana guy.
But did you read the details here?
He bought it for $6 million over what they were.
You missed the most important part. This is the culmination of NFT culture.
Oh yeah. Trump-linked crypto founder eats a $6 million banana on stage, and this is what we covered in the first thing. But there's a nonsense aspect to that as well.
Yeah, here's the nonsense. Well, I mean, it's nonsense, right? You pay $6 million for a banana and you eat it. Here's the nonsense part. Here's the whole NFT insanity that this guy bought into. He didn't buy that banana. He bought instructions and digital ownership to secure his own banana and tape. He ate a different banana.
Well, I would hope so, because the other banana was from months ago.
It's really a $6,000,049 banana because he spent the 49 cents to acquire a new
Well, he
banana.
needed tape as well.
Yeah, that's true. So it's probably like another $2 or $3.
That he paid $6 million. Like, he got the news coverage, and everybody knows about the Trump-linked crypto founder. You can't buy that kind of publicity.
Yeah, you can. It's $6 million. Who else would bid on that? That's so crazy.
Yeah, they said it was only expected to go for $1 million or $2 million. Wasn't it Christie's or somebody that was handling the auction there?
And can you imagine who would be crazy enough to do something like this? Just give money to strangers on the internet just so they'd read something? My God, what kind of person would do this?
Chinese man sends $550,000 and family's life savings to a streamer so that she would call him bro. Well, it turns out that he stole 300 and some thousand of that. and it was to do with like copper recycling and like
I think
copper
it was
industrial something.
I think his family was in construction, and he faked records and actually moved the copper out of the warehouses and sold it on the black market. Imagine how much trouble that was.
Yeah, he's gonna go to jail. And they thought that, like, even this is apparently such unusual behavior. They thought that maybe there was a mental health component.
I would agree with that. I think there was one here as well. Now, you might have had a rough Thanksgiving. I didn't have the best time, but it was certainly nothing like this.
Grandma stabs family during Thanksgiving Day argument.
We don't know the Chat's family. They could have some crazy people in their family.
I think the most drama that I can recall is Granny threw the cranberry. The cranberry wasn't dressing, but it was meant to go with a sponge cake. There was like some sort of cranberry jello that was meant to be a topping or a side or something specifically for the sponge cake, yellow cake dessert. Not yellow cake uranium, but like, and she's just like, she had one bite of it and she just threw it on the ground, and there was a bunch of, it was a lot of drama, and it was like very tense.
That same Newsweek story pointed out a couple of other instances where there were active shootings at the Thanksgiving table.
My family.
There almost
always
was an
chill.
active shooting that year.
Yeah.
And perhaps there should have been an active shooting here, because we see this over and over and over. We keep giving these people accolades, and then they don't live up to them.
Former Deputy of the Year charged with DUI after trying to direct traffic that didn't exist.
He was drunk, and he felt the need to be in the middle of the road. Very drunk. They've not released the blood alcohol content, though. Isn't that weird? Because if I get DUI'd, the whole body cam video and
It'll be up.
it'll all be public. But for some reason, they
Everyone
didn't
will know.
give us that one. And speaking of bananas, this is a known thing, the scratch and dent fruit. People don't like it.
I was looking for it the other day. I wanted bananas, but I wanted the scratch and dent bananas
Why?
for like banana bread, or just like they're better in smoothies because they're sweeter.
Just wait, bro. But yeah, people, it's been proven that if any, it's like, because they grade the fruit, right? Like grade A, grade B fruit never gets to the shelves because they're like, people aren't going to buy this ugly fruit, even though it's basically the same. Well, they've figured out how to hack your mind.
Shoppers can be made to feel sorry for a single banana, study finds. The secret is labeling single bananas as sad single.
Oh,
Sad single
microwave
banana.
dinners for one.
Now, they did some pretty good science here. They did just labeled as singles, labeled as happy singles, and labeled as sad singles. Only sad singles had a huge jump in purchasing.
I guess I'll take a banana home.
Yeah, it says these bananas are lonely. They want to be purchased too. And people were like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to rescue this banana to eat it. Imagine if we did that for dogs. And this is absolutely repulsive. I don't know what's wrong with the Japanese. I hope that this is like one of those weird.
That's going to be
This is
clipped out of
something,
context.
some strange thing I don't understand.
Well, you know how they do like the weird flavors of stuff here, but it's just a
Novelty.
I think that's
small
probably
run.
yeah. They're just trying to get a headline here, and they did.
Japan launches drinkable mayo for fans that just can't get enough. And this article goes on to describe something that sounds to me like eggnog.
This feels like they're taunting white people.
But it turns out the Japanese, according to this article, are one of the biggest consumers of mayo. They love
Really?
it. Yeah.
Oh, I guess, yeah. You know, I've heard, so like some of the fancy ramen recipes I see, they always say like if you're going to do like a mayo-based sauce, there's some sort of like Japanese mayo. Starts
Kewpie?
with- Yeah.
Kewpie
They
or
say that's
kewpie?
like the best kind. I was trying to find some the other day at the store. I didn't see it.
I don't know how to pronounce it. Does Chad know how to pronounce it? I think it's Kewpie, right? Like Kewpie doll.
It's a word I've read but never said out loud.
Yeah, I've never tasted it. Have you tried it?
No, I was trying to find it.
We should do, instead of drunk stream, we should just drink mayonnaise.
A mayo challenge.
Someone right now is going to send us some. Not going to be great.
That's not going to travel well, is it?
I wouldn't think.
Oh no, I guess mayonnaise is shelf stable these days, right? Till you
It
open
depends on what kind you get, I think.
And turkey prep. There's a lot of different ways to do it. One popular way is to brine it. Another popular way is to leave it frozen and drop it into boiling oil, which explodes. But that happens every year, and apparently so does this.
Utah officials tell people to stop brining turkeys in the Great Salt Lake. I'm
Time
pretty
to
sure this
stop.
is just a troll. They found a single turkey in the lake, and they were like, don't do that. There's parasites in the lake. Like, don't. We know it's salty, but don't do this.
This was also still in a sealed bag.
Yeah, it's not going to brine very well. I have
Or at
done.
all.
I will confess I have done Alton in the years ago. I've done Alton Brown's turkey, like brine turkey, like following his formula. Literally, you put it in a dollar store bucket. You clean it, but you just get a big old bucket from the dollar store and you brine it for 24 to 48 hours or something. And that was an incredible turkey. Incredible.
Well, how about pancakes for Thanksgiving? Anybody do that this year? Well, one man got himself some. I don't think this was on Thanksgiving. It's probably around that time.
Had kind of a happy ending though because
And
it got blown up.
Well, that's orphan crushing machine happy.
Yeah, but if you don't crush these orphans, you're going to have a lot of orphans.
The headline is IHOP server of 13 years says she was fired after giving man in need a stack of pancakes.
This is a real Les Mis moment.
But here's the thing: did you guys see this? Because I didn't see it in the article. Did she pay for them?
No, they didn't say.
If she paid for them, then okay, right?
They did say that a family came in later and paid for a meal, so they at least broke even. Because you could get free pancakes with a meal.
Also, was it International Pancake Day where you get a free pancake? When is that?
He got a whole stack.
It's International Happy Pancake Days.
But he also only got a water. So IHOP, once this blew up and it turned into a PR nightmare, IHOP was like, oh no, we'll give you back pay. You get your job back. It's all fine. The manager said that she was fired citing company policy. That's the problem I have with this is like, yes, there could be a homeless person that comes in that is methed out and will absolutely start stabbing patrons. But you need to leave the judgment of that to the people involved. It doesn't need to be corporate policy.
Do we have to start training the waitresses to psychologically evaluate the homeless as they come in?
It's like,
That's not efficient.
It's not reasonable for this person to be here because of the smell or because of, clearly they have mental health issues or something. They contribute to the unsafety of other patrons, so they shouldn't be here. That is reasonable. But hey, somebody down on their luck just needs a stack of pancakes. That's fine. You cannot make a blanket policy to deal with that and abdicating individual decisions. Like you're going to have to make those kind of decisions in your life sometimes, and trying to protect you from having to make those decisions through corporate policy is how we end up with orphan crushing machines.
The real lesson here, though, let's say you're an IHOP waitress. She fed him his pancakes. She gave him pancakes and water. Nobody would have noticed those were gone.
Yeah.
But she decided to talk about it to the manager. She was like, oh, you can't believe what just happened. She thought somebody was going to be like, you're such a good person. Don't talk about it.
It's a good Christmas story.
No, don't ever give out information that you don't have to give out.
The article made it sound like she only talked about it because he came in with another family later. But maybe not.
Sun Tzu would have taught her correctly that you do not give your enemy any information that you don't have to give them.
But the manager said they were a family.
Well, Sun Tzu would also have taught her that is always a lie.
That the manager is not your family.
Now, maybe the biggest problem here is that man chose a chain restaurant, right? He should have gone local. He could have picked up something more than just pancakes.
Milwaukee bar shut down after chickens and cocaine found inside. And you read this article, and they're not at all surprised for the cocaine aspect. The article focuses entirely on the chicken and chicken welfare aspect, where they ultimately decide one of the chickens was fine and returned it to the bar owner, and the other chicken had to be euthanized because it wasn't in good shape. Apparently, the bar owner was raising the chickens for slaughter, which apparently is a fine in Milwaukee, if a bit unusual.
It feels wrong to raise chickens in a basement, right?
Yeah, I mean, a
They
little
should
bit.
have some sunlight.
A lot of people have like backyard chickens, but like keyword
Yard,
yard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Basement chickens are probably got a better life than like densely farmed chickens, though. They're not free range.
Also, this guy was apparently shooting into the air out of the windows of the bar.
Also,
Probably
not
because of the cocaine.
also not emphasized in the story. Like, I feel like this would be a much better story if it's like some things happened because of the shooting and the cocaine. The chickens were really not a factor in this story. All right, that's reasonable because the story focused so much on the strangeness of chickens in the basement. It's just like, what?
I feel like
Well-
I would maybe not, depending on where in Kentucky. Like if I found out a bar had a chicken, I probably wouldn't be too surprised.
No, but you would be way more surprised than if you found out a bar had cocaine.
Eh.
I don't know. Yeah, bars are usually places of.
Whoever wrote this story
No, I'm
wasn't
saying
surprised.
the reason they focused on the chickens is because it's not unusual for a bar to have cocaine in
Oh
it.
yeah, okay, that's what.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like, there's,
I agree.
There's cocaine in that bar. Whatever. There's chickens. Let's check it out. Yeah.
We need to call the police and animal control. And it's like, Yeah, that's the story.
Is it wearing a diaper?
The meta story is bigger than the story in my like. What's going on in Milwaukee? But that's their headspace.
You gotta differentiate yourself in the very competitive entrepreneur market for restaurants.
Well, if you want to hang out with animals, farm animals in particular, then maybe that's not where you want to go because they've cracked down on that. Maybe you want to go to South Gujarat because you're going to be able to hang out with some sanctioned animals there.
University in Surat to house cows on campus for positive vibes.
Is this like when you do like the finals week when I was in college? They would do like the puppy thing.
It's not that at all. It's much more terrifying than that because this is a university. This is higher education, right?
Right.
So one of their buildings basically just like decomposed into dust.
Right.
And they were like, we're going to have to do some planning
Most
for the
typical
campus.
college experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we're going to have to rebuild a bunch of buildings. Let's bring in a bunch of architects to work on that. But because South Gujarat does things their own way, they also brought in an astrologer. And the astrologer looked over the layout of the campus and said, you know what you're going to need is about 7 cows. That's going to change the energy of this place.
Emotional support cows.
Well, so I was thinking, so like talk about like the puppies. Like they would bring in puppies on finals week, and you could go out to like the dining hall and go play with the puppies for a little bit to de-stress.
Are you supposed to interact with the sacred cows?
I don't know. That's what I thought it was going to be. I didn't realize they were going to be just like chilling.
Many years ago, there was a food dumpster very close to where the on-campus food mart was, and so there was a breeding problem with cats there. But there was actually like it sort of became a thing where you would go and de-stress by
petting the cats.
yeah,
Dumpster cats.
the dumpster cats. Yeah.
Well, our final story is nothing as exciting as dumpster cats, but it is a very unique deer and
What is?
quite a mystery.
Elusive deer spotted wearing high visibility jacket in Canada. Who is responsible? I feel like in Canada, though, Canada is such a high trust society that it's like, hey, this deer's special. Don't shoot it. Oh, he's got the high vis vest. All right. Sounds good.
I mean, to be fair, you're not supposed to shoot stuff in like hunter orange and yellow, so it probably worked.
But here's the question, right? How did you get that onto the deer? Because they said,
You'd have to tranquilize it, right?
well, they were talking to the game wardens and they're like, yeah, if we find it, we're not even sure if we're going to try to get it off because the risk of the tranquilizer is so high.
Yeah.
We don't think it merits tranquilizing to get that thing off. So
He just gets to wear a little coat.
also tranquilizers are fairly heavily controlled, right? Like you can only get tranquilizers if you have certain certifications.
No, you go to
or
Farmer Supply, Tractor Supply.
Or maybe they drugged it. Maybe they like put some Xanax and some cornmeal or
acorns,
something.
yeah.
I get every time I go to Tractor Supply to get. Sometimes I run low on solder syringes for like the flux solder and stuff like that. And every time I go there to get syringes so that I can deposit solder paste, I always get the side eye because it's like I need the largest bore needles you have, and they're like.
They do sell like animal vaccinations there because I've gotten the one for Bordetella for Rue before.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's like people abusing injectable drugs that's like, no, I need the horse needle?
There's people that go there to buy clean needles, yes.
But why would you get the big bore?
That's what they're trying to figure out. They're just like, oh, it's obvious.
They're
drug
side-eyeing you, yeah.
obvious drug
They don't
use.
know.
And then it's like, wait, there's this thing here that doesn't make sense with my preconceived notion. It's like, listen, I will bring in my electronics projects if you want. It's fine.
I'm just a really impatient addict.
It's so uncomfortable though
need it all at once.
that it makes me just want to have spare, and that's not really something you can have a lot of spare of because, well, you can have the spare syringes, but the solder paste separates and goes bad. So like it's a thing where like you have to order it, and I don't want to put it in the fridge because even though it's lead free, it's like I don't think anybody would appreciate like having that stored in a fridge.
You better not have any cash at your house because the DEA comes in there. They're taking everything.
Yeah, it's like you've got drug paraphernalia.
He had
and it's
this
like,
weird gray paste in the fridge.
so it keeps testing negative for meth, but I'm sure it's meth, and it's like Jesus Christ, guys, come on. So, I meant actual vacuum. What is a good robot vacuum? I'm not aware of a robot vacuum that doesn't upload literally everything to the cloud.
That's surveillance.
We
You're
did a
just gonna
story
have to do
about
it.
that.
Maybe we should build that. I don't know. Indiana Cornbread Nerd says Indianapolis is frozen and slick with snow. My HVAC heating, my HVAC in heating in the data center. How odd. Wow, I'm surprised the data center actually needs heat. Everything, even here, is like we just have a heat exchanger. There is no heat. If it gets to 60 degrees in the data center, oh well, it's fine. A video game controller animated icon from Joba. Thank you. L. Oh yeah, I actually meant a vacuum. Yeah. Just get that out of order.
I do like, we have, I can't remember what variety we got. We got it secondhand because they're expensive. We did get a Dyson vacuum. It was worth it.
More money from Gimpy says, yeah, what sort of Chinese person would spend real money on someone to read something out loud on the internet?
Crazy people.
Nice. And J Bus says, look up waffle stomp shower. No, let's not.
We know what a waffle stomp
Let's
is.
not do that. That is
My
terrible.
geology professor in college referred to hiking shoes with like the deep,
Cleats or whatever.
not
Yeah.
even cleats, but just like, the design on the bottom.
Yeah.
He referred to those as waffle stompers. And we could never figure out if he knew or not.
Yeah.
He did not. Oh, 63% on the poll.
What was the poll?
Do you pee in the shower?
Oh, I didn't even see we put that.
63 yes?
Yeah.
Wow.
I would say that's only slightly better than a coin toss.
I would say at least 30% of people are lying.
I don't pee in the shower, but I think it might be a hardware related issue.
They
too.
brought up the pelvic floor on women is not, you're not going to get a full evacuation.
Yeah, I'd have to crouch and it's just not comfortable.
Well,
Just like this program.
Yeah.
that's another thing for you to be jealous about.
No. Salty about.
Hiking and showering, major disadvantage.
What about chat? Chat's like 3/4 of our chat didn't even have the Thanksgiving holiday because they're not from America. Denvera 1G1 is like, when traveling domestically, not leaving the U.S., there is no limit on cash. Internationally, you must declare over 10K, but any amount must be declared.
Don't believe that.
That is not like
That's the law, sure.
Yeah.
They definitely look
afraid.
at you weird if you have money.
I would say
just money.
if you have $2,000, maybe less in cash,
Yeah.
they will take it, and it's up to you to prove that it's not drug related.
Ernie Walter, 4 euros.
Here's
Also
the
a
other
sticker.
Here's the other terrifying thing to keep in mind about that. The dogs are trained on cash as well as drugs. So they will trigger on cash.
Yeah. Yeah. We did, in college, we did the robotics travel thing, and they took cash with them, and it was a problem then. And that was before a long time ago. Sort of fun times. Thank you, Ernie Walter. Any other questions before we go? It's been fun hanging out. We're going to do this again for Christmas.
Yeah.
So
around Christmas. We don't know what the holiday looks like.
if you have
yet.
any ideas or you want to see something, leave a comment in the linked level 1 thread where we have the 1 tabs for this video so that we'll see it, and it'll also be a little organized for us because the YouTube chat comment history is a little disorganized. But it'll probably be similar format, except longer. Probably go all day, and have
All day?
well, we did it was like 5 hours last time.
Yeah.
We usually do the sampling of something.
Yeah.
We did fruit last year. This
And
year,
moonshine.
you know what we should do this year? We should do large bore opiates.
Just really up the ante. Get banned on YouTube immediately.
Direct injected solder paste. Is that what we're doing?
Ugh.
Yes. No, that would be fatal. That would be bad.
We could do a Bucky spread.
Am I on Blue Sky? I am in fact on Blue Sky.
We're going to take out a loan? Does Buc-ee's have a vegetarian choice?
Yeah.
They have,
What have you
yeah,
gotten
they
from
have
there?
Nuts.
and the fruit. They have like the
No,
fruit
did they have
cups
like a
and stuff, too.
warm, one of the sandwich type deals?
They did have watercress sandwiches the last time I was there. They're not warm, but they were I got one of those and it was okay. And the fries, I was able to have the fries, even though those, I'm pretty sure they fried in like fat or something because my lips burned a little bit. But those were okay.
I've not had the fries. Where do they sell those?
They had those.
At Bucky's.
Yeah, they were.
Is it in the little middle island thing where the meat sandwiches are?
Yeah,
First get on the board.
they had them under the sun lamps, but it was just like the skin on Texas cut stuff. I don't know. They might have been experimenting. It's on telling.
Can you do the banana pudding? They have banana pudding
I
there.
don't really like their banana pudding.
It has kind of an artificial flavor to it, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Good banana pudding does not actually use banana pudding. Or the best banana pudding is like a 1/3 banana pudding, 2/3 vanilla pudding. J Bus gave us another €2. Any questions? What you H9-1 about anything? I don't know what that means.
Hanine 1.
Did you feel
Oh,
that?
hate.
Oh.
Hate, right?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, I don't hate anything. We had a lot of people asking about our thoughts on Pat Gelsinger that came in a little bit late, but we covered that pretty good in the business section, I thought.
I'm sure that more details will come out of that.
You can
It literally broke this morning.
learn that in one of your 10 rewatches. Oh, us.
The short version would be no good deed goes unpunished. Pat was doing a lot of stuff Intel needed to do a long time ago, and I think he got the short end of the stick for it. But we'll see.
I think his parachute will be quite golden, right?
Wow, it's pretty quick to kick him out, but
Eusoros asks, is a gyro a taco or a sandwich? What's that from? That's from something, isn't it?
That was the hot dog was the first debate.
Yeah.
but then it's like, is a Pop-Tart a sandwich?
But a taco having a rigid shell, I think disqualifies it.
So Pop-Tart, in your view, is not a sandwich,
Pop-Tart is a pastry.
but it's in a shell and it delivers filling.
No, it's a pastry.
I had one time when I was visiting New York, it was a slice of New York style pizza. But it was mostly not pepperoni. It was mostly cheese and tomato sauce wrapped around an Italian sausage. And that was incredible.
I mean, sausage on pizza is pretty.
It was more sausage than like that ratio of sauce. Like it was just sausage with like a
Stuff around it, yeah.
a wrapping of pizza and the crust, shoved to one. Oh, it was really, really good. It was shockingly good. And a nice, thick, hearty tomato sauce. It was like so good.
Pop-Tart is a calzone, yeah. Can't fight that logic.
Level 1 gourmet tips.
Have you ever had a Pop-Tart that's it's opened up? An open face Pop-Tart?
You put some sugar on it, dress it up.
Mashed potatoes.
I have had occasion to open a Pop-Tart before, and it was very sad on the inside.
There's not much in there.
No.
Right? It tastes like there's more in there than there is.
Yeah,
Toaster strudel's where it's at.
yeah. Somebody found, I don't know if this was faked or not, but it was in one of those Reddit threads about shrinkflation, and somebody had like a 15-year-old thing of Oreos, and they opened the old Oreos and they put it next to the new Oreos, and the new Oreos were slightly smaller diameter and slightly less filling. And I
Even
was
the
just
double
like,
stuff.
it's just like, wow. And those were just regular Oreos. And I was like, is this real? Is somebody messing with us?
Who has a 15-year-old pack of Oreos?
Sean Dudley says, what a question. Where do you get your dresses? Krista?
This one my mom got me many years ago. I tend to get hand-me-downs a lot, where I buy things from like thrift stores.
Mostly dumpsters.
Things that were saved from the dumpster, not untrue.
See if Linus has got anything up. Hit him up in the store. LTTstore.com.
Yeah, this one my mom got me.
So, all right. Well, thank you all for hanging out. We will see you next time. I'm going to hit end stream, but I think I have to wait for Krista to actually wave. Oh, no. Thomas T says, thank you guys for your links each week. We try. We'll be back at the regular schedule next week. So fun times.
What? Oh, yeah, we will next
Yeah,
week.
we will.
Yeah. So, it's not Christmas yet. It will feel like next week.
But it'll be a short week because now we only have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and part of Friday
Yeah.
Yeah.
for news stories.
Bye.